Hello, everyone. I'm Elsie, and welcome to Elsie's True Stories. Today, I'm sharing a real-life story from my own heart. It's called, Real Life Story. I paid for my daughter's wedding, then she said, "You're not invited." It was a warm evening in Melbourne, the kind where the sun dips low and paints the sky in soft pinks and oranges. I remember the smell of roast lamb wafting from the oven, mixed with the faint eucalyptus from the gum trees outside my window. My little house in the suburbs had always been a place of comfort, with its creaky wooden floors and the old floral curtains I'd sewn myself years ago. That night, I'd set the table carefully, white cloth, my best china plates, and a vase of fresh banksias from the garden. I wanted everything perfect for dinner with my daughter, Sarah, and her husband, Tom. Sarah was my only child, born late in my life after years of hoping. She'd grown into a strong woman, with a job in the city and dreams bigger than our quiet neighborhood. I'd always been proud of her. When she got engaged, I didn't hesitate. "Mum, the wedding costs are piling up," she'd said over the phone, her voice a bit shaky. I sold some shares my late husband, Jack, had left me and transferred the money. $30,000. It wasn't everything I had, but it was a lot for a widow on a pension. "It's for your happiness, love," I told her. She hugged me tight that day, her perfume lingering on my cardigan. But as we sat down to eat that evening, something felt off. The air was thick, like before a summer storm. Tom poured the wine, a cheap red from the local bottle-o, and raised his glass. "To the future," he said, his eyes flicking to Sarah. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We clinked glasses, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Then, as I sliced into the lamb, Sarah cleared her throat. "Mum," she started, her fork hovering over her plate. "About the wedding, we've been thinking." I looked up, the meat warm and juicy on my tongue. Tom shifted in his chair, the wooden legs scraping against the floor. "It's going to be small, intimate. Just close friends and, well, we want it modern, you know. No fuss." I nodded, waiting. The clock on the wall ticked softly, marking the seconds. "So, Mum," Sarah continued, her voice steady now, "we've decided it's best if you don't come. You paid for it, and we're so grateful, but you might not fit in with the crowd. It's our day." The words hung there, like smoke from a dying fire. I felt a chill, despite the heater humming in the corner. My fork slipped, clattering against the plate. Not invited. To my own daughter's wedding. The one I'd funded with the last of Jack's savings. I stared at her, searching for the little girl who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms. But her eyes were distant, focused on her phone buzzing on the table. Tom chuckled awkwardly. "Elsie, it's nothing personal. Weddings these days are about the vibe, right? You understand." Everyone laughed then, Sarah's light giggle, Tom's deeper one. I didn't. My chest tightened, like the time I fell off my bike as a kid, wind knocked out. The room spun a little, the lamplight casting long shadows on the walls. I could hear the neighbor's dog barking faintly outside, a reminder that life went on beyond this table. Inside, I was screaming. How could she? After all I'd given, not just money, but years of love, late nights nursing her through fevers, scraping together for her uni fees. But I said nothing. I just nodded, forced a smile that felt like cracking porcelain. "Of course, dear. Whatever makes you happy." We finished the meal in silence, the clink of cutlery the only sound. They left soon after, the car engine fading down the street. That night, alone in my bed, the sheets cool against my skin, I replayed it all. The hurt settled deep, like a stone in my stomach. It wasn't just the wedding. It was the way they saw me, as an old woman, a bank account, not a mother. Money had twisted things, made love feel conditional. I lay there, staring at the ceiling fan whirring slowly, and wondered where I'd gone wrong. Have you ever felt like your love was just a check to be cashed? Tell me in the comments, what would you do if your own child treated you this way? If this story touches your heart, like and subscribe for more real-life stories. The days after that dinner blurred into one another. Morning started with the magpies warbling outside my window, their calls sharp and insistent, like they were trying to wake me from a bad dream. I'd make my cuppa, strong tea with a splash of milk, just how Jack liked it, and sit at the kitchen table, the wood worn smooth from years of use. The house felt emptier, the silence heavier. Sarah didn't call. No texts, no apologies. Just the wedding invitation that arrived in the post a week later, addressed to someone else in the family. Not me. I tried to push it down, that ache. Busied myself with the garden, pulling weeds under the harsh Aussie sun, the dirt caking under my nails. The scent of lavender filled the air as I pruned the bushes, but it didn't soothe like it used to. At night, I'd flick through old photo albums, the pages crinkling under my fingers. There was Sarah as a bub, chubby cheeks and gummy smile, Jack holding her high. Our little miracle, he'd say. Where had that gone? It hit me one afternoon at the bank. I'd gone to check my accounts, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the teller's voice muffled through the glass. My balance was lower than I remembered, transfers to Sarah for her car, her holidays, now the wedding. Mrs. Thompson, the young lad said, pushing his glasses up, you might want to think about a term deposit for what's left. I nodded, but inside, something stirred. A quiet anger, not loud, but steady, like the ocean tide coming in. That evening, I sat on the veranda, the cool breeze rustling the leaves. A possum scampered across the roof, its claws scratching softly. I thought about Jack's will, how he'd left everything to me, trusting I'd pass it on wisely. The house, the savings, it was our nest egg, built from his job at the factory, and my nursing shifts. Sarah had always eyed it, dropping hints. Mum, when you're gone, she'd say, trailing off with a laugh. But now, it felt like she was rushing me out the door. I cried that night, hot tears soaking my pillow. Not for the money, but for the strangers I'd raised. How had love turned into this? Expectations, demands. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, the salt stinging my lips. Enough, I thought. Time to act. The next morning, I drove to the solicitor's office in the city. The traffic was thick, horns blaring, but I felt calm. Mr. Hargreaves, an old mate of Jack's, greeted me with a firm handshake, his office smelling of leather and old books. Elsie, what brings you in? I told him everything, the wedding, the exclusion, the years of giving. He listened, nodding, his pen scratching notes on yellow paper. We can update your will, he said. Set up a trust, perhaps. Protect what's yours. I agreed. No more handouts. The house would go to charity if needed, or to my niece who'd always checked in. Not to those who saw me as a wallet. As I signed the papers, the ink flowing smooth, a weight lifted. It wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. Sarah found out soon enough. She called that afternoon, her voice high and frantic over the phone. Mum, what's this about changing the will? Tom heard from his mate at the bank. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the receiver, the cord twisting around my fingers. It's my choice, love, I said quietly. You made yours with the wedding. She paused, the line crackling. But Mum, you can't do that. We were counting on. I mean, family helps family. Her words stung, but I held firm. Then maybe you shouldn't have treated me like an ATM. Silence. Then tears, hers, not mine. You're being selfish, she spat. I hung up, the click echoing. Selfish. After all I'd given. But that wasn't the end. A week later, a letter arrived, handwritten on fancy paper. From Sarah. Mum, I'm sorry. We didn't mean to hurt you. The wedding was stressful. Please come. Too late, I thought, folding it away in a drawer that smelled of mothballs. I didn't reply. Instead, I packed a small bag and drove to the coast, to visit my old friend Dot in Geelong. The road wound through the hills, eucalypts flashing by, the radio playing soft tunes. Dot's place was a cozy cottage by the sea, waves crashing in the distance. We sat on her porch, sipping gin and tonics, the ice clinking in our glasses. You did right, Elsie, she said, her hand on mine, wrinkled like my own. Family isn't about what you give, it's what you share. I nodded, the salt air filling my lungs. For the first time in months, I breathed easy. Then came the twist. A call from the bank again. Mrs. Thompson, we've found irregularities in those transfers. My heart skipped. Turns out, Tom had been dipping into the wedding fund for his own debts, gambling, they said. Sarah didn't know. It explained the rush, the exclusion. They'd needed my money quick, without questions. I sat there, stunned, the phone heavy in my hand. Not just ungrateful, deceitful. I confronted them over coffee at a neutral cafe in the city. The espresso machine hissed behind us, the aroma strong. Sarah looked tired, eyes red. Tom fidgeted, avoiding my gaze. It's true, she whispered. I found out after. I'm leaving him. We talked for hours, tears mixing with the steam from our cups. No shouting, just truth. I didn't forgive right away, but I listened. I didn't lose my family, I just stopped paying for their love. If this moment hits close to home, give this video a like, it helps more people hear stories like this. The weeks after the confrontation felt like emerging from a fog. Melbourne spring arrived, blossoms bursting on the jacarandas, their purple petals carpeting the streets like a soft blanket. I'd walk in the mornings, the dew cool under my sandals, breathing in the fresh air. The hurt lingered, but it softened, like an old bruise fading. Sarah came alone one Sunday. She knocked softly, the sound tentative against the door. I opened it, the hinge creaking, and there she was, hair tied back, no makeup, looking like the girl I remembered. Mum, she said, voice breaking. We hugged in the doorway, her arms tight around me. No words at first, just the warmth of her against my shoulder, the faint scent of her shampoo. We sat in the living room, sunlight streaming through the lace curtains, casting patterns on the rug. She told me everything, Tom's lies, the pressure, how she'd let it blind her. I was ashamed to invite you, knowing what he'd done with your money. Tears fell, plopping onto her jeans. I handed her a tissue from the box on the side table, the one with embroidered edges. I'm sorry, Mum. For all of it. I forgave her, not all at once, but in pieces. Love isn't perfect, pet, I said, my hand on hers. But it's worth fixing. We cried together then, the kind of tears that cleanse. Later, we made scones in the kitchen, flour dusting the bench, the oven warming the room. Laughter came back, light and real. The wedding never happened, not with Tom. Sarah moved back home for a bit, her boxes stacked in the spare room. We talked late into nights, the kettle whistling on the stove. She got a new job, paid me back in small amounts, but it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about trust rebuilding, like mending a torn quilt. One day, a surprise. My granddaughter, little Mia, Sarah's from a previous relationship, ran into the house, her pigtails bouncing. Nana Elsie, she squealed, wrapping her arms around my legs. I hadn't seen her much lately, with the drama. We baked biscuits together, the dough sticky on our fingers, giggles filling the air. You're my favorite, she whispered, chocolate smeared on her cheek. That moment, in the sunny kitchen, healed more than words could. Tom faded away, legal papers sorted quietly. Sarah found peace, and so did I. I kept the will as is, for now. But I added clauses for MIA's future, a safety net woven with love. Looking back, that painful dinner was a turning point. Love without respect is just a transaction. I finally learned, money can't buy love, but it can buy freedom. And sometimes, walking away is how you teach love its real worth. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and turn on the bell. I post new ones every day.